That always drives me crazy. I'll get, the text messages or emails from our suppliers that, always bid on our projects. Hey, I got a quick question for you. I'm like, please don't. Send it to the group thread so that I can answer it for everybody. I'm not answering this 5 times for 5 different people.
But getting them all in one place at one time is certainly difficult at times.
Or you have integrators coming in on one walkthrough as the other one's getting ready to do another one, and they look at each other and a fight breaks out. It's awful. Actually,
that's a good way to settle who wins. Just Thunderdome it. Go old school.
Now when men get to fighting, it happens here. And it finishes here. 2 men enter, 1 man leaves.
On this episode, we discuss RFPs, Cisco, and emergency public address systems. All that and more on EdTech. EdTech episode 135. Welcome to the Thunderdome. Hello, AV friends, and welcome to another episode of EdTech. As always, we have our awesome panel of higher ed AV professionals, Ernie Bailey. Hey, Ernie.
Hello, Aaron. Good to see you again.
Yep, and Rob Rasberry.
Hey, Aaron. Always glad to be here.
And today's special guest joining us for this episode is BC Hatchett from Vanderbilt University in Nashville, Tennessee. Welcome, BC.
Thanks, Aaron. Happy to be here.
So tell us a little bit about what you do over there at Vandy.
So I'm the Director of Classroom Technology for VUIT, and my team, we lead the support and equipping and integration of about 500 classrooms on space, about 61 buildings. So when we're not building them, we're supporting them around here.
Absolutely. And not only does BC work for Vanderbilt, he is also one of the co-founders of HETMA, if you didn't already know.
If you didn't, now you do. And I encourage everybody to check us out at hetma.org.
So let's jump into these articles that we read. This first one is written by Joe Way, another HETMA name that may sound familiar to people. This one is provided by AV Technology on the avnetwork.com. Navigating a successful higher ed AVIT RFP process, part 5. So we jumped in at the last part, and it's a 5-part series where Joe wrote about the RFP process. Now this one, the one that we read in particular was about the judging process in the conclusion. But absolutely take a look at the whole series if you are involved at all in the RFP process at your school, or if you're just interested in hearing about it. So how do you get what you really want or need out of an RFP process? How involved are you guys with that?
We used to do them a lot. We've migrated to doing all of our own integration. So we don't do that many RFPs unless it's a special project of some sort. But I went through all of this many times over, and I do like Joe's approach. And we did something very similar. We always had pricing put in a separate envelope than the description of how they interpreted the request, so we could review what they were doing, what they were saying, and judge it solely on that. And then, we would put those in order, and then we would open the price envelopes. And if our first choice fit within our budget, that would be where we went. We didn't look at, pricing was weighted real low. So it was it was easy to choose the right project. Once again, it had to fit within budget. If the top choice was way out of budget, we would look at the next one to see if it fit in. But it was, I thought, a very good way to do it. And that seems to be very similar to what Joe's describing. And, what all factors do you weigh in? We would weigh in, he talked a little bit about this, on whether it was somebody we have worked with in the past, and that might be a plus or a minus, and it would be discussed. We feel we can trust this group, or it's going to require more of our time to watch this team. if they're coming and doing it. So that needs to be factored in. Or it's somebody completely new to our environment, and how do we evaluate that? Look at other things they've done and talk to them, but just kind of making sure that price was not the driving factor. And he also talked about your review team. And our review team generally include faculty from several of our colleges, because all of our spaces are shared, as well as our technical support team, and other people from our teaching and learning committee that we have here on campus that reviews anything having to do with with interaction with students, basically, whether it's hardware, software, facilities. But we all work together. And then, once again, final thing, open the prices. And you only open the price of one at a time.
Yeah, I like putting the money as like the lowest factor, because I feel like a lot of times the temptation for a lot of projects, especially in higher ed where they make money go as far as possible, price is so much of a factor. So I like that kind of.
And we would have a high and a low point. So if something came in really low, we would really want to evaluate that as well.
Ernie's answer was so complete. I don't know what else to add to it. It's like
Sorry.
what he said. Yes, I agree. That's great. I guess the only thing I was going to add is at Drexel, we are not completely centralized. And so the RFP process has become more of a shared exercise. We have an AV standards group that is moving towards, trying to standardize everything across the university, even in distributed IT, central IT, all these departments. And so what's happened is we've now collectively, in an RFP process, opened it up to other departments to take a look at, to say, okay, hey, we know these people, or hey, we've seen this, or do you want to, change your, what you're doing here? So the only thing that it may be a little difference is, yes, you have the other people come in and help review and do these things, but we've sort of opened it up in the beginning to other AV experts at our institution, because sometimes you get that you get that angle, or as Joe would say, the gem, right? Is that what was word? I think that was used in the article. You get those gems that sometimes you're not looking directly at. But I think the article was great. The RFP process is, like ultimate project management. You're setting out what you want and how you want it done, rather than, hey, why don't you come in and take a look and see what you can do? And then we'll decide, which, bid we'll go with. So I think, controlling the narrative is extremely, extremely important when doing a project for a classroom or any kind of tech space upgrade or project in general.
Yeah, our at Vandy, the way things work is we have a central procurement department, and they run all of our RFP processes. But we play a key role in crafting the scope and the equipment selections. Of course, we always leave a little leeway in there. We've got a little disclaimer, that this is based upon the project. We are willing to hear alternate solutions whenever they might fit better. But again, I did like a lot of what Joe said, especially the pricing thing. We don't necessarily do that because private university, we don't have to always go with the lowest bid. We try to save where we can, but and kind of like Ernie said too, it doesn't weigh as heavily on it. We'll go with a supplier that we feel that fits a project better than necessarily fits a price point better. But yeah, I mean, it's a great way. It's a lot of work. It is a tremendous amount of work, but it's also, it saves in the long run, because the more complete your RFP process and documentation is, the more complete your design will be. And we've found that when we invest that additional time in making sure that all of our documentation lines up and our procurement department runs it perfectly, then our projects run extremely smooth.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking of writing an RFP is somewhat, is the original AI prompt. Like, learning how to craft it was like such a skill. Knowing how to write things to get out of it really what you want. But it's also like AI, garbage in, garbage out. So if your RFP is all over the place, you're kind of gonna get those sorts of results from those who respond to it. So
We did ours kind of like BC was talking about, in that, our central procurement, managed it all, and they had their boilerplate stuff that had to go in, and we basically wrote the scope of what we wanted, and then it fit into their project, and then they helped us with the weighting and the rules that we laid out, like 2 envelopes and, questions. How do you process questions, and who can respond, who sees responses, that type of thing. But it was all done with the legalese of the procurement office, and they reviewed everything. And like I said, they sent it out and they opened everything for us.
yeah, the responding to questions, that reminded me of, like, I liked that Joe talked about doing a webinar for talking about the project and all of the explanations, and then asking, like, having anonymous questions. But then that really, because that way it really, you make sure that everybody has the exact same information and it is very fair, as opposed to when you get the individual email that asks a question and then you have to answer it, send them, but then also send it to everybody else who's also submitting, to make sure that it is fair and everybody has all the information. But it gets hard to keep track of that.
That always drives me crazy. I'll get, the text messages or emails from our suppliers that, always bid on our projects. Hey, I got a quick question for you. I'm like, please don't. Send it to the group thread so that I can answer it for everybody. I'm not answering this 5 times for 5 different people.
That was what we did with our procurement office. The question would go to the procurement officer, who would then send it to me, or really send it to the whole committee, say, I need answers in X number of hours. He would combine all the answers and then respond to everyone. And we were doing these pre-webinars when we were doing them. So we would have a mandatory on-site meeting for anyone. If you didn't show up for the meeting and the procurement officer was there, and they're the ones actually took names of everyone that was there, you had to present a business card and sign a sheet. And those were the people that got all the answers to questions. And we never said who asked the question. We just said, this question was received. Here's the answer from the official answer from the committee. But if you weren't here, we generally would do a walkthrough of the space so they could see, and during the walkthrough, they could ask questions about, cable pass and things like that. So,
right, yeah. But getting them all in one place at one time is certainly difficult.
Yeah, the walkthrough is always painful, especially when you're trying to do it around, you got 20, 30 spaces you're trying to do, and you're trying to get them scheduled around classes that are going on. And that part's always been a pain point for us.
Or you have integrators coming in on one walkthrough as the other one's getting ready to do another one, and they look at each other and a fight breaks out. It's awful. Actually,
that's a good way to settle who wins. Just Thunderdome it. Go old school.
Well, like we did one walkthrough. Everyone was there for the same walkthrough, so everyone heard the questions and answers that were there. They saw the space, and we didn't forget to take one of them into a control room or something like that.
Yeah, and if you don't make it,
bid next time.
Well, all righty. So this next piece comes to us from Steph Beckett on avbuyersclub.com. Cisco puts AI at the center of collaboration with new RoomOS and Webex features. So where are we at with Cisco? Where do we stand, us higher ed folks?
I don't dislike them. I took a call with them, with our rep, I guess a couple of weeks ago, and they were showing me some of their new stuff. And I mean, it's good. It's solid. It's a solid offering. It would not hurt my feelings to see somebody kind of break the somewhat monopoly that Zoom and Microsoft currently have, and if nothing else, push them to innovate a little bit more, especially Microsoft, to kind of maybe punch up Teams a little bit, make it a little more of an enjoyable experience. But I think Cisco's still a relevant player. I mean, it's just, I still think of Cisco. I think of hardware codecs. That's kind of, it shows my age a little bit, I guess. But I think they're still very relevant. I don't see them bowing out of the field anytime soon.
We are the same way, and we use Cisco products for telemedicine. They have both the hardware and the software. Everything they have is HIPAA compliant, but and they are involved a little bit in the general IT networking infrastructure. We use different products in the Cisco right now, but they're some of the routers and stuff are, and the core pieces are from Cisco, so they're involved somewhat on our campus. But we use other people. I do agree. I'd like to see more than just Zoom or Teams out there. Now you realize Zoom was actually created. Its start was with Cisco, and leadership and Cisco didn't get along, and they split, went different ways. We're Zoom for the academic programs and Teams for the administrative side of campus.
Yeah, it's interesting because I can't remember the last time I've even talked to a Cisco rep. So Cisco, if you're out there, yeah, I can't make a comparison with something, a rep I haven't met or stuff that we haven't used in decades, that kind of thing. So if they're, up in their game, I'm open to it. And it was interesting because when I saw this, I said, okay, well, Zoom sort of does this. And so I just was wondering, what's going on here? What is the point in this? But BC, like you said, Cisco's relevant. You talk to them, it's a solid platform, and it's always good to have the alternative or the third or fourth wheel that's trying to jump in there and maybe can show the big two something. So
yeah, it's weird trying to think of Cisco as a disruptor in the collaboration marketplace when they used to be a main player. So that's WebEx was one of the keys that kind of got online collaboration going, and now trying to see them break up the other two, it's kind of, or break into the same level as the other two, it's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
In our teaching spaces, we try to be as agnostic as possible for the conferencing platforms. So we generally, as part of the rollout of any, we put computers in every classroom for the instructors, and they all have all three platforms, single click, with the local app for WebEx, Zoom, and Teams. So any instructor can use any of them.
Yeah, we're the same way. It's like I get the question, are you all Teams or Zoom? We're USB. And I just hand them the cable and say, do what you need to do.
Exactly. Because we have so many, like I said, we pay for a Teams license for every employee and student on campus, but it's not user-friendly for our faculty in the classrooms. So we pay for Zoom licenses for academic programs. So, and we've got people saying, well, everybody else uses Zoom. Why can't I have a Zoom license? I say, because you don't teach students. You can use Teams, or, we do for some of our researchers that are collaborating with other universities that are Zoom only. And, there may be requirements. They have to have a Zoom license. We require the researchers to get a HIPAA compliant license. I pay 5 times as much for that license as I do the academic license. And Zoom works with us real well on managing, who gets what, we can assign them to anybody. So we just make sure we don't have more than X number that are in the research group at any point, or we buy more licenses for them.
Yeah. Now, at Hopkins, our central IT team they standardized on using Cisco's WebEx kits as their UC install standard. Like that is what they use. They had selected it because at the time it was one of the only platforms that was doing, you could make a call from one of the other types through it. And then everybody else firmware updated, and then you could also do that. So, it never impressed me much. And since we are much more of a Zoom campus in general, faculty wise, it just makes more sense to just use Zoom. But I could see how it could be tempting to try that other option. And it does seem like some of the innovations that, or the new things that they're coming out with, new features, are interesting. Some, others already do that. But the thing, the one about being able to create a digital twin of the space, that was a little intriguing. I was like, I don't necessarily feel like that's super useful, but I think it certainly could have its place and be interesting. But yeah, from my standpoint, not really going to make any major changes anytime soon. But I do like that, they're still giving it a go. And
it reminds me of their old telepresence that they did in the early days of HD video conferencing.
I mean, that's why the wall behind me looks the way it does, because my office was a telepresence room, which was not very well utilized, let's just say, and that's why it's my office. All right. Anything else on this one? All right. So this last one can be found on AVNation.tv. Biamp Vocia integrates emergency warning and public address functions at major international airport. Sorry if I absolutely butchered that product name. I came to the realization that, I don't actually know how that's pronounced, but I took a guess. So for your campuses, like, who's responsible for the emergency notification stuff? Like, and are there any tie-ins to the AV systems?
There are intentionally no tie-ins on our systems. We discussed that in the early days of integrated classroom systems, and it puts a big liability on us. And, especially when we tie into being a hospital and level 1 trauma center, those announcements have to go everywhere. And we actually coordinate speaker locations. So there are places in our lecture halls and classrooms and hallways for the emergency announcement speakers, so it is audible everywhere, but it does not touch our hardware. We do, as of a couple of years ago, we do now have notices come across all computers, including the teaching computers that we put in the classrooms. But we identify that as a courtesy notification. If you're presenting from the computer, it's going to pop up on the screen, and we cannot block that intentionally. But once again, it is not a primary means of communication for emergency notifications.
Yeah, it seems like, phones and email and texts are, it seems to be the one that reaches out most ubiquitously. Right. And you talk about that liability, Ernie, absolutely. So, definitely, sort of mirror that. And, it's interesting because we don't really have too much to do with the digital signage and notifications as far as in my particular group. That's, really public safety and into a different department that handles that. So,
yeah, we're the same way. We kind of intentionally did not put that or integrate that with any of our AV systems. Our public safety office handles all of our alert communications on campus, and they can hit a button and push a notification out to every computer and smartphone that's tied to a Vanderbilt account, even if they're off campus. So we figure there are plenty of ways to receive that notification, and We don't have to tie that into the AV system.
They do that. And I do know in the academic spaces where my team is very active, we are familiar with the paging systems that they use for emergency and campus notifications. And we provide a little bit of consulting on, speaker placement and amplifier power. Excuse me. But we just do it kind of as an advisory. And then, if someone says it can't be heard, we'll go and we'll play with the controls a little bit and see if we can't get it loud or get it clear, EQ it a little bit for them. But as far as controlling how, the signal path and everything, that we don't touch that.
Yeah, it's pretty much campus security is the ones who facilitate it all. And yeah, we don't have anything touching our systems necessarily. The only thing we have started to do in our larger spaces is put in an interrupt so that if a fire alarm goes off, the amplifier cuts out. And that's like the only sort of emergency type things that we've at all really gotten to do it all. But yeah, I mean, so much of it is those text alerts, or we have like a main campus, and it's not even in the buildings, it's in the quads, but it is so loud that you can pretty much hear it anywhere in the buildings when they do.
We have outdoor announcements too. So
I could see how it could be, especially in a business setting like an airport or something like that, to kind of consolidate some of those systems into one, so that like from a management standpoint, you have the AV guy manage those things. And I could see how that could be helpful or tempting to do.
And it makes a lot of sense to distribute that as well. I mean, what happens if you have it all tied back to one command room or control room, and the emergency is in that control room? You kind of lose your capability to broadcast those messages.
What's Biamp going to get into next? That's my question.
Right? Yeah. Might as well get into all the markets, make all that money.
Plenty of verticals left out there for them.
Well, all right. This has been another fantastic episode. I appreciate you gentlemen for joining me on this conversation. So, BC, if anyone wants to reach out to you after this episode airs, where might they find you?
They can find me on Twitter or X, and it's at BC Hatchett. I'm also on LinkedIn, and also feel free to shoot me an email. It's bc.hatchett with 2 T's at vanderbilt.edu.
And how about you, Ernie?
You can always find me on LinkedIn.
And Rob?
Same as Ernie. We're consistent.
Consistency is good. And as for me, you can find me on LinkedIn, on X at Smearin_off_ice, on the HETMA community, and each month here on AVNation's EdTech podcast that can be found on YouTube or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. You can also find other AVNation podcasts like State of Control, Women in AV, AV Career Mastermind, and more. See you next time.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AV Nation.
This is AV Nation.